Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I know you're like, who is this voice? Yeah, I know it's been a couple months, but we are back. Welcome to A Father's Perspective. You can check A Father's Perspective on divemedia.co. That is divemedia.co. And we are also on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/Divenomous, I know that's a long name, Divenomous. But please check us out. Dive Media presents A Father's Perspective. So this is AJ. I'm back with another strong brother. And we are going to get into some really good conversation this evening. And we hope that it encourages you, challenges you, and provokes you to go do some reading, to go build stronger relationships, all in the hope that you would get a father's perspective, the father, capital F, perspective on all matters. So with me tonight is a good brother, my man DeMaryo Platt. DeMaryo is actually someone that I met through a friend because he's married to a friend of mine from college. And so this is not somebody I personally go back with 25 years, 30 years. Not that I'm that old because I'm a young guy. Anyway. DeMaryo, please, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone? Let them know a little bit about yourself before we jump all into it.
Good. What's going on, people? My name is DeMaryo. I am married to Amadi's friend from college, Anita Platt. They go back, and like you said, we've been introduced to each other through my wife. A little about me, man. I am 34. I have two sons, 16 and 15, and they like, what do you mean 15 and 16 at 34? No, I didn't start that young. I could have, but the Lord kept me far enough not to start that young. But anyway.
Right.
But my wife and I, we've been married for 6 years. Our passion is entrepreneurship, and our passion is using entrepreneurship for the purpose of humanitarian missions, right? Creating profit to solve problems in people's lives. And I'm glad to be on here, and hopefully we can solve some problems today. No doubt.
So I know some of y'all listening was like, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm glad you just go ahead and jump right to it. Wait a minute, 15 and 16, this brother 34, what? Jokers start doing the math in their head, carry the one. So, yeah.
Right, carry that one. And I saw this Facebook video the other day talking about how math versus is taught today versus yesterday. And it was like, what they doing? Because they were talking about 35 times 10. They talking about draw a box, and I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, that's that Common Core stuff. That they trying to keep up with China, man. So but that's another discussion. Yeah. That's another discussion.
And what's funny? There was an Asian guy. It was a parody video. So there's an Asian guy in the video, and he sits down, solves it like you and I were taught in school in less than 30 seconds. Goes, starts cooking a pack of oodles and noodles. Still teaching how to solve 35 times 10.
That's crazy. So yeah, folks, we gonna get it in tonight, talk a little bit about being dads and being fathers, and hopefully at the end of the day our perspective lines up with the Most High's perspective. So D, let me bounce this on, because this is one of my starter questions I ask every brother that comes on, because we love to big up fatherhood. I big up fatherhood, even though I didn't come from the best background, but I still big it up because I understand its importance. And the culture at large downplays the importance of fatherhood and fathers in general. But what comes to your mind? Because a lot of times we have to understand that people have a perspective of father before they're introduced to anything relating to the kingdom. They have a perspective in their mind. And so what I like to do is go ahead and peel off that scab and ask, what comes to your mind when you hear the term father? Just when you hear it, what comes to your mind? What sort of thoughts and images pop into your head?
Sex machine.
Okay.
The Godfather of funk. No, what I think about when I hear fatherhood, I truly think about purpose. That's the first thing that pops in my mind, is purpose, and the purpose of providing a foundation. It really is just that simple. I think about my purpose is to provide a foundation.
That's great, man. Because a lot of times I've talked to people and I say, so-and-so, God is your father and this, that, and the third. And when you listen to them respond, you realize their perspective on father is so skewed that it actually, will alter or pervert the way that they even see God. Because when you start talking about God as your father, right, your heavenly father this, your heavenly father that, well, that is perverted, to a certain degree because of the way a person may even perceive the term father to begin with. You feel me? So I think that that's right. A really good answer that you shared there, that someone who lays a foundation for those who come after him. That's a really excellent answer, man. How do you, now that we've kind of gotten into your mind a little bit, because this is the father's perspective, so we get in your perspective. How do you view your role? So your role specifically as a father.
Sure. So my role as a father is, like I said, it is my purpose to be a foundation. So what do I mean by me being a foundation? So the way I carry it, and I'm very open with my wife about it, and my wife is actually in 150 million% in agreement with it, and it's going to sound really weird and crazy. But when I say fatherhood is the source or the purpose, my purpose is to be a source of foundation. I'm a father to my wife first. I father my wife first. I believe women always have a father, meaning they go from their biological father, and then when they come to marry another man, when they marry a man, that man becomes her father now. He's a source of foundation for her, and then he's obviously a source of foundation for the children that come out of their marriage. So my faith is obviously in the Bible, and I believe that the Bible provides us all the principles we need for God's intention for us to be to understand how to live life on a practical level every single day. And Adam said, a man shall leave his mother and father and become one flesh with his wife. If you want to get very technical about that, he said that the man will leave, not the woman. And I just believe that means that the woman goes from father to father. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to be a source of foundation to my wife, and then a source of foundation to my children. And what do I mean by foundation? That means I'm providing nourishment to the development of their potential. I'm providing nourishment to the development of their identity. Right? I've developed this recent habit. I'm very intentional about it, just based on me knowing personal things about my wife's history. I'm very intentional about calling my wife Queen. Right? Every moment I can do it without it sounding corny.
Right.
I'm going to call my wife Queen, because I'm going to do it in public, in front of everybody, in front of people, whether she's there or not. I'm going to do it when I'm talking to her. I'm going to make sure that my sons hear me call her a queen, because one, I'm being a foundation of, I don't care what happened in your past. I don't care what's going on now. I want you to understand who you are and what your value is, right? I don't care if you wake up one day and you feel out of shape. You feel like you're not on your prettiest day. What did your husband say? Your husband said you a queen. You looking bad today. So that's my job. It's my heart for her to be able to rely on my character and my word, me being the foundation of changing her perspective or exercising her potential. And the same thing for my children. So I'm also, when I say foundation, I'm also, nourishment for potential, nourishment for identity, protecting, right? If you're in a building, and like, you remember that earthquake we had a couple years here in the DC area, right? During that time I was teaching. And the earthquake happened during the middle of my lunchtime, so I wasn't even in the building. But the earthquake happened with me sitting in the middle of a Wendy's, chewing on my burger. And I'm waiting and I keep hearing this 18-wheeler coming down the road. And I'm like, where's this 18-wheeler going to come? It had been like a good 25 seconds, I'm listening to and expecting this 18-wheeler to come down the road, and I'm looking for it. Next thing I know, the windows are warping in and out, the building starts shaking, yada yada. So obviously I'm like, okay, well, my lunchtime is over. I got to get back to the school building. Right? So that's that right there. That's already fatherhood mentality kicking in. Let me get back to the school, make sure my kids are good, my students. And when we get there, obviously we're evacuating the building, and we, for the rest of the day, from 11:30 till 3:15 dismissal of school, nobody went back in the building, because all Prince George's County Public Schools could not go back in until officials arrived at each individual school to check the foundation.
Right.
Because the windows can be broken, tables turned over, the whole building can be looking crappy, right? But if the foundation is cracked underneath the building is considered not safe. Not because the building is crumbling, but because the foundation is cracked. So I look at it as being strong for my family and protecting them. If I'm cracked, then my wife and my children are cracked.
Well, I know you just rock some people's theology, man. That you just rock some people's theology, and I like that kind of stuff. Y'all know how I do, but because I actually love that you know, I agree with that sentiment, that because what you're talking about is covering. And you know, when a woman leaves her father, and again, and some of you may be listening, that may not be your story. And just because something is not our story, we want to remind you, just because it's not our individual story does not negate its truth, right? Just because I ain't got $5 doesn't mean that $5 still ain't $5, right? You know, it is, you know, the truth of the matter is that, you know, God's intention was for women, our wives, our daughters, to go from the covering of their fathers to the covering of a husband. And if you're not married, remain under the covering, particularly spiritually, of your father, you know. But that's another discussion for another day, because, you know, the culture will say, go ahead, girl, go get yours. You know, girl, you don't need no man, go get yours. But the fallen angelic will tell us otherwise. So that's a really...
Well, you know, that's interesting, man. I know you said you want to talk about that another time, so I ain't gonna dive.
Well, we might go down this rabbit hole, y'all. Go ahead. If there's a part 2 of this interview, then y'all know why.
Well, I know in our modern day times, right? A lot of women make more money than their husband. Right. And I'm glad that I have friends. I got brothers who are my friends who their wives make more money than them, and I'm glad that they don't care. Right. Because I'm right them. Like, I don't. At one point, my wife Danita made more money than me. I don't care. Right. Guess what? As a man, I can take those resources and do my part. Right. What I'm trying to say is that I know in our modern day society we have the roles, or the gender roles have been blurred or changed or revolutionized, right? And at one point back in the day, it was the man is inherently by nature supposed to be the breadwinner. Now we're in 2020, and it's, you know, the argument really is, should a woman who makes more money than a man, she even be trying to give him, she even give him any attention for any moment of the day? And if she decides to, I was like watching this Facebook video the other day, she was like, if I make more money than you, when I could easily find guys who dwarf what I make, then I have the right to belittle you in our relationship. I'm like, wow. Wow. But what I'm trying to say is that roles mean nothing when it comes to the principles of fatherhood. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So yes, maybe my wife is a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, and as a father, I'm supposed to be the source or the foundation of her. So no, she might be better at business than me, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So if I want to start a business, but my wife has a proven track record of being a more developed and more mature leader in business, guess what? As a man, I have no problem saying, hey, Danita, I need you to help me start my business. Right. You know what you're doing. So then where does the fatherhood come into that? Where I need to figure out where my wife does need support. And that's where I will be the source and foundation. I need to make sure that I'm smarter in the areas that she needs support in. So if she needs support in emotional stability, I need to make sure that I'm smarter than her in that area, so that I can be a foundation for her emotional health, et cetera, et cetera.
That's wonderful. Yeah, man, because even in areas where our wives excel, one of the things that I found as a husband, as a father, for those of you who don't know, I am a husband and a father as well. Go back and listen to the previous episodes. That even in areas where our wives excel beyond us, that it's important that we remain engaged so that their gifts remain sanctified. You know what I mean? So that it doesn't become because the enemy is real slick, and he'd be like, "Oh, girl, you don't need him. Do your thing."
Right.
So yeah, right. It's always important to remain engaged. So with that being said, my next question, we just kind of jump right into my next question / topic was, because one of the most important things that I found about fatherhood, probably the second most important thing, is the importance of the way that I relate to my wife. The way that I relate to her, and the way that we relate together in front of our children. So what are some ways in which you and your wife relate to ensure the kind of the comfort and the security of your children? Because our children find security knowing that their parents' relationship is solid. How do you and your wife execute that?
Yeah. So my wife and I's marriage, our family is unique. So we're a blended family. This is the answer to y'all's math earlier, guys. To me being 34 with a 15 and 16-year-old. So my wife and I, we're a blended family. My wife is actually 9 years older than me. I'm 34. I'm not going to say her age, but wink, wink. So my wife actually had a marriage before me. And so our two sons are not my biological sons. But so it's interesting. Our story is my wife actually is she was adopted, right? So she's never known her biological parents. So she went through some stuff. Even though she had adopted parents, she still went through some stuff, right? To know that your biological parents decided not to take care of you. And then two, me personally, my mother had me when she was 16. I've never met my dad in person. I've talked to him one time over the phone through, thank you for this collect call. You are now being connected to the Alabama prison penitentiary, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. You have 30 minutes to talk. Wow. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only time I've actually had a full conversation with my father. Grew up really poor, right? So naturally, a male, no matter how old a child is, no matter how old a boy is, if there is not a father in the home, the natural fatherhood will kick up in that son. And that's impossible to stop, because every boy is already inherently born with the fatherhood potential. God intended boys to grow into fathers. So you don't add that a boy doesn't choose to become a father. It is how they're designed to become. And so then when eventually, fast forward, my wife and I get married, I'm dealing with my trauma of not ever seeing a male love my mother, not ever seeing a male pay a bill, not ever seeing a male, not for me to be able to come home and I lost a fight, and for him to say, oh, well, you need to learn how to fight.
Right.
Or, how to be tough, et cetera, et cetera. I had to learn all that stuff on my own, while the psychological trauma of being a father or being the man of the house before it's time for me to take on that role. So obviously my wife and I had to go through a lot of reconditioning of our minds. Obviously she's coming out of divorce. So she's not down. We talking about added trauma, just added things that she has to go through. And so our children, our boys, they saw us working through it, man. They saw the arguments. It's not that we were purposely arguing in front of our kids. We never did that. But it is what it is, right? Children can tell the intensity of the room, et cetera, et cetera. But proof, our kids would tell you, they seen us work through it. They see us that no matter what, we always sit down, we're going to talk it out, we're going to work it out, we're going to figure it out. And we're now at a point where our kids will be like, man, yeah, they obviously have learned a lot about being married, because they saw me pick up books and acknowledge to other people and acknowledge to them too. Me being fine with admitting that I'm stupid in this area. I don't know how to be a husband. I don't know how to be a father. I've told people my wife actually should have told me no when I asked her to marry me, right? But that's why I love her. It's one of the reasons I appreciate her so much, because she's been willing to take that journey with me as I've grown, as I take the journey of growing to learn how to be a husband and a father. And so the way we always relate to one another is that we relate through purpose. She's always pursuing to understand her purpose as a woman. I'm always pursuing to understand my purpose as a male. And so we're always looking at, okay, how do you compliment me and how do I compliment you? And it is always through, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable. You're going to hold me accountable. We're going to compliment each other through accountability of, hey, stay in your lane. Like this is who you're supposed to be to me. This is who I'm supposed to be to you. And, that's how we relate to one another, in understanding our God-given purpose and then the personality that we were given through our experiences. I'm an extrovert, she's an introvert. That could bring a lot of challenges sometimes, but I have to understand the purpose of her introversion and how it connects to her purpose. And then as I understand the principles of who she is, I purposely activate those principles, right? So as a father, I want to show my sons, how do you be romantic with a woman? It's not about, touching her body, right? It's not about, because you like a girl, you just start automatically being touchy. That's how you get, the Me Too movement on your behind. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand why, I did this because my wife gave me permission, but she gave me permission by sharing that information with me. Like, this is who she is in a romantic way. So I perform romantic acts towards her that are appropriate for my sons to see. This is how you love a woman. You hold her. You don't just go up and start touching her butt. No, you wrap your arms around her and say, babe, how you doing today? You need anything from me before I start, doing other stuff that's appropriate for them to see, before kissing her. It's not about kissing. It's about, hey, I'm here to secure you today. You need anything from me? So hopefully I answered your question, man.
No, man, it's really good. It's really good. I think that, and that's something that you hear from a lot of men, how important it is to show affection to your wife in front of your children. Again, because it's a reinforcement of the security that comes to them from seeing their parents, seeing the relationship strong, seeing them show love. I mean, because honestly, similar to what you were saying, that's an area where I struggled in showing public affection, because that's just not the way I grew up. My peoples are from the Caribbean, so if anybody knows about Caribbean culture, particularly Jamaica, that's not something that you see a lot of unless you're in the parties. When you're in the parties, but everywhere else, it's kind of uber proper. And so, touchy-feely, hey, that just wasn't me, growing up. And so when I came into my marriage, it was a little bit of that as well. Just, what you doing? Like, why you all up on me? You know what I'm saying? It's
I'm out slipping.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had to, listen, thank the Lord for seeing men and realizing how important that is. So that's definitely something that I think people should be looking to, particularly men, brothers, if you're listening, add that, as the Bible says, add to your faith this, add to your faith that, add to your marriage some affection, some public showings of affection. So we touched on it a little bit, so I want to do a little bit of a deep dive here. Because this is one of those taboo subjects that the saints don't like to talk about. And I appreciate you again for just peeling off that scab. Folks was doing their math in the beginning. And so, how do you see your role as a stepfather, right? Because sometimes people like to put that as like a second-class citizen, right? You know what I mean? Where I don't believe that the Lord does. I believe that the Lord honors any man willing to take the responsibility of representing the father to the next generation. And so I feel like God honors that. So how have you seen your role as a stepfather, and do you view that in a different light, or is it kind of all together, father, stepfather, all in one? How do you kind of go, flow with that?
Yeah. So I personally, and my wife agrees with this, and our children agree with this too. I'm not a stepdad.
Amen.
I'm your dad.
That's great.
I'm not your stepdad. Especially with our dynamics, right? With our dynamics, I am the consistent father. They have a biological father, but I'm the one they see every day. You know what I mean?
That's what's up.
I'm the one that's there for every single moment from, I've been there for every birthday since I've met y'all. I've been there for every boo-boo. I've smelled your boo-boo, your bad breath, your underarms. I've been there for when you liked your first girl. I've been there when you lost your first fight. You know what I mean? I'm there. So I'm the father because I am fulfilling every single role of a father, right? I'm the one that's sourcing you. Your food, your clothes, your house, etc., your transportation all comes out of me. I'm nourishing you. I'm helping you to understand what it means to be a 16-year-old boy at this point. You know what I mean? Hey, son, look, you're 16. I'm going to put some parental controls on your devices. Not because I think you're a bad person. You're 16. Them hormones about to start kicking, brother. And guess what? Brother, I've been there, and I didn't have a dad to help me not to understand the negative impact of porn.
Right.
That it can have on a 6-year-old mind going into marriage when you finally get married. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I'm the one that's nurturing your mind, your development into becoming a man. I'm sustaining you, right? I'm making sure that you're getting the proper the food nutrition. I'm making sure you're getting the proper education. I'm supporting you. Both of my sons have their own business. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, you have an idea? Good. Let me help you get it done. Let me help you think about it correctly. Let me get you the right connections. Let me get you the startup money, et cetera. I'm the founder of our family, No, biologically, our boys not have our last name, but my boys are glad to claim my last name. They never introduce themselves as their biological last name. They always introduce, and I never asked them to do that. Never asked them to do that. Never asked them to call me dad. I never asked for those things. I earned it by being a father. And so that means I'm being the author of their faith or the author of their mindset, how they see life. Like, I see life through a Platt perspective, not through a biological last names perspective. I'm their teacher. I'm always teaching them. They come to me for advice all the time, and therefore I'm creating a legacy that they will build their potential on top of. And so therefore I'm not their stepdad. And everything I just went through are all the principles of being a father. And so because I grew up without a father in my household, I knew from day one, whenever I started getting this consciousness, I remember back in the 90s, man, or early 2000s in high school, people be like, I would never marry somebody with kids. Why not? Well, why not? You know what I mean? Because I understood it, because I'm like, I grew up without a dad, and I knew the impact that it had on me as a boy.
Right.
So and then us being, I'm just kind of going and giving different examples, different areas of example. We have a lot of, especially during our current times of social justice, you have a lot of black people right now who are really excited. We got to get ourselves together. We got to advance, yada, yada. But then you'll turn around and say you'll never marry a sister who got kids already, or you'll never marry your brother because he had a baby by another woman. Well, if we can't come together as the so-called village, air quotes, right? If you can't see that fatherhood or motherhood is not a biological thing, it is a responsibility of your gender.
Right.
So, for instance, man, if I pass away based upon, let's say I pass away tomorrow, based upon your relationship with Danita, I would hope that if the Gabriel and Michael are around you, Amadi, you see them doing something that ain't of a man. If you see my 50-year-old walking around a little bit with a little switch in his hips, it's like, I hope that you as a man be like, son, time out, right? I love your mother. She's my sister. I knew your father. That was my brother. And that's not the expectation I'm sure they have for you. And me as a man, I can't let no little boy walk around me with a little switch in his hips.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, brother, I need you to pull your pants up. I don't need to see your butthole. I don't need to see you switching around. You need to walk like a boy. Bend them knees. Run. You know what I'm saying? So that's the responsibility of a man. Anytime you are anywhere you are always a father. You're always a father, man. That your father 24/7. If you know something that another kid that little boy don't know, pull that man to the side and say, look, man, you a smart young man, you look pretty attractive, yada yada, whatever, man. You look like you're a handsome guy. Man, tell your sons they look handsome, man. I kiss my sons every day.
Yep.
I give them a hug, and I tell my son, you a good looking brother. You know what I'm saying? Trust me. when they turn 30, they're gonna remember my dad kissed me when I was 17 years old. You know, I kiss him on the cheek or on the forehead. I don't kiss him on the lips. That's that Tom Brady stuff I can't do.
Right.
But I still kiss my son.
No, definitely.
It means a lot. It means a lot. So hopefully I answered you.
No, man, definitely. My son's only 12, but yeah, I still kiss my son. When he come give me a hug, I kiss him on the forehead, like, hey, man, I love you, man. You know, one of the things likewise I do is, I make sure that my children, and I've told this to my daughter in particular, she's 14 now. I said, one of the things I'm going to show you now, because she's about to enter high school, and I say, hey, I'm going to show you masculine affection. I was like, I'm not your mother. I'm not your mother. I'm not going to smother you. I'm not going to mama you. But I'm going to show you love. I'm going to show you masculine love and masculine affection, and that is so important. And that's just really great to hear you share, man. From as your perspective, because you were willing to take on responsibility. That when we are willing to take on God's responsibility, we can sort of shed some of these earthly terms to try to best put a thing in a box. Oh, well, they're not biological. He's a step. No. I've accepted responsibility. There's a brother that I was discipling for many years, and he was in a similar situation. Blended family. His wife, she was divorced, and their first child was from her previous marriage, and then they had 2 kids together. And I would tell him, I said, man, and if he's listening now, bro, I love you. I'm not going to share your name, but I love you. I would tell him all the time, I would say, man, listen, it was a young lady. I said, man, when that girl grows up, every memory of father will be you. It won't be her biological father, because similar situation, biological dad wasn't that involved. And so I would just encourage him when it got difficult, man, remember, you are her father because you chose the responsibility to marry her mother and to raise her. And so I was like, just keep that in. And so now to see now she's in college, and to see them flourishing, it's like, man, wow, praise God, because all of the things they were struggling with 10, 12 years ago, seeing it come to fruition, man. So just, even as an encouragement to you, bro, I've seen God just work that thing out, man, and ultimately seeing the fruit that has come from, continuing to persevere, man. So that's wonderful. That is wonderful.
And one more, like you said 2 things that I want to hit on real quick, man. I really liked what you said a lot. First thing is that you said give your daughter masculine affection, and I know what you mean, because you're saying it for your daughter and for your son.
Right.
For me personally, a lot of this same-sex revolution stuff could be solved if men knew how to do what you just said. Show masculine affection to the boy and to the girl, so that they could understand what it means to love another man. I love my brother, or I love the male friend. Like, I really love them. Like, I love them like I love my wife, except it doesn't get into the area of eroticness. But if I see, like, I have a friend, Will, if I see my man struggling, what's in my pocket, brother, is in your pocket. You know what I mean? I got a whole basement. If your family needs a spot to stay in, come in. You know what I mean? You need grocery, because I love him. That's my brother. Like, the same way I take care of my wife, I would take care of my friend Will, right? But it don't go into the area of, because I did, God is awesome. Even though I grew up without a father in the home, I could count on one hand. There were like 3 or 4, like 4 or 5 guys who became like the father I never had. And they were willing to show me that affection. And so therefore I saw what it means for 2 men to love each other like brothers, or like father and son, right? And the last thing you said was, I just forgot it. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, man. I really enjoyed. You said 2 things. I can't remember that second one, but I just like the fact that you said, because the woman is designed even from a scientific standpoint, she's designed to show affection a certain way, and she processes it a certain way, and the males, and vice versa for the male. So yeah,
that's what's up. So, man, as we come around third base, man, there's a really good concept that I've learned, for people who listen. My part of my story is I used to be a church leader, was an ordained elder in a church, and did all that official ministry stuff, and don't do much of that anymore. Do a lot more in my home, but what I found from that was it made me compartmentalize a lot of stuff. And when I began to really walk in the kingdom in many areas, I went from being compartmentalized to making sure that it all was flowing together. And so
right,
I want to toss this out to you and get your thoughts on this, on how you walk this out. How do you walk out, making sure that your family life, quote unquote, your life just as a practical dad is not compartmentalized from your family's spiritual life, that it is all sort of flowing together?
So that's an interesting question, man. The way I process that is, so first thing is, I know it's not compartmentalized, right? And what do I mean by that? Because most people are like, well, if you're a Christian, you're a religion. And I agree, Christianity is a religion, but the Bible is not about Christianity, right? Most people would say, well, what do you mean? You say you believe in the Bible, so you believe in Jesus died on the cross. Yes, I believe in Jesus died on the cross, but Christianity, that is the message of Christianity. Jesus died on the cross so you could go to heaven. And I don't believe the Bible is about that. I believe the Bible is actually about a king who wanted to establish his culture through the format of a country on the earth. God wanted to turn earth into an extension of heaven, another territory of his country. And so how did he want to do that? God wanted to take his established government in the country of heaven to another territory, which would be earth. And why do we have governments? We have governments to protect and enforce the culture amongst citizens or amongst community members. So I believe the Bible is about a king who wanted to establish his country on earth, and he sent his children to be the citizens to establish the culture of his country on the earth. So therefore, there is no such thing as, in my mind, God's original intention was never for us to have the four walls of a building with a weekly tradition. His intention was for us to be a community that expanded around the entire earth. And that community culture, specific character, specific principles, specific ethics and morals and values. And so therefore, the reason I don't compartmentalize my ministry, if I understood your question correctly, the ministry and my family, is because my family is my ministry. Right? You will know God, you will see God, you will experience God's presence and his power by looking at my wife. Now I've just represented a God to you, and that will turn you on. Like, I don't want to worship your God. I'm good, bro. Right? Because your children look busted. Your children are unruly. Your wife don't look happy. Her hair always nappy. Her fingernail polish is always chipped. Right? So for me, man, wherever I go, I need my wife to look better than me. I need my children to look better than me. Right? Because if you see them, then you know who I am. And if you know who I am, then you know who the God is who I consider to be my government leader, my king.
That's good. That's good, man. No shade to anybody who got nappy hair out there. No shade. No.
You know what? No, it's wherever we start, man. It's wherever we start. But
yeah.
It's the journey, man. It's the journey. At one point, my wife and I, man, our kids got school clothes, but we had clothes that we were wearing 2 or 3 years because I had to go through my growth as a man to understand how to do. You're responsible to make sure she look good. Right. You know what I mean? So
no. That's what's up, man. And it's actually become, as I've gotten older, it's become some of my favorite passages in the Bible. When Paul gives Timothy and Titus instructions for elders. And one of the instructions is, hey man, if this brother can't lead his own home, if he cannot lead his family, I love, I'm at a place now because I don't read the King James as much anymore. I read New English translations, but just from my younger years, I have so many scriptures memorized in the King. And it's a much harsher tone, but I like it in certain aspects. Where this one, when it goes through the requirements for elders, it says if he can't lead his own home, he's unfit. Like he is not fit to be a leader in God's house. I was like, man, that's cold. It's cold blooded right there, you know. But I think that it's really, you hit on it, you know, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it speaks volumes to the nature of the capital F father. If you, one of his representatives, you know, your wife is completely out of order, your children unruly, etc. Like your home is out of order. So no, that's excellent, man. Because I have found that before I disciple anyone, I need to make sure that I'm discipling my children, right? Before I do anything with anybody else, I need to make sure that I am continuing to focus on my children's destiny and my wife's destiny, not my actual daughter named Destiny, but all of their destinies. Right. So yeah, man, that's excellent to make sure that we don't stay compartmentalized, because as men, that can be our tendency to do that. You know, to just this is my spiritual life, and this is what I do with the fam, and then this is what I do for work. But they all kind of separate. They're in their own little separate jars. But to make sure that those things mix, man, is good. Exactly.
I mean, if you think about it, when you look at Genesis, once again, God created the earth, and then he wanted to colonize the earth with his country, with his government, with this influence of his government. What did he start with first? The first gender he started with was the male. And the male became a father when he was introduced to a woman. And that's the expansion of the family to bring the culture of heaven to earth. So even God started with a father to expand his country. You get what I'm saying? You see the connection? Like you said, if you can't be a good father, you can't be a good leader to other people. How do I know you're a good leader as a male? Because of how your wife and kids look. Right.
Oh, and that's something that I've learned from a man that's been a father in the Lord to me. He said, you know, whenever he would talk to brothers, he'd be like, man, how are things going? Oh yeah, I'm blessed, man. You know, God is this. He'd be like, let me ask your wife, hey, how things going? And all of a sudden, the story takes a weird turn. He's like, yeah, you know, because sometimes our wives, not even purposefully, but just sharing, will tell on us. You know what I mean? And let the cat out the bag. So now that's really great to hear, man. Well, listen, DeMaryo, man, thanks so much for coming on, man. I think this has been really rich, y'all. If folks wanted to hit you up or get at you or ask you some more questions, man, how would they hit you? What's your socials?
Oh man, okay. So I have two ways you can hit me up or hear more, because we're actually next year we're going to be doing a love and marriage conference next year through our community development business. We do host a church, and we started a church. And we also have a business where we help people to develop their leadership talent. But ultimately what I'm trying to say is that next year we're doing a love and marriage conference where people who are single and people who are married come together for one conference, because people have to understand the principles of relationships. You will not be successful. Like you and I just talked about, if you can't be a good father in your own home, you're going to fail at some point in your business world too. You know what I'm saying? But you can hit me there at basically the Eden Foundation Ministries on Facebook or Instagram, or you can simply come to my personal page and I'll redirect you to the Eden Foundation Ministries Facebook and Instagram page.
No one sliding this man's DMs, please.
Right. Yeah. Hey, you know what? That's true, bro. No, look, man, I don't text any woman without my wife being on that text message too, man. But they don't even know they don't even know each other. But look, my wife gotta know everything I'm doing. She got my passwords and everything, and I support that.
Oh yeah, no. But anyway, bro, you preaching to the choir. Man. She got passwords to everything. Man, well, listen, bro, thank you so much for coming on again, man. I think this was super rich. And again, folks, if y'all want to, get at DeMaryo, have any other questions or comments, or just tell him how awesome he was on this broadcast, please go to Eden Foundation Ministries on Facebook and Instagram. Get at him, build with this brother. He's a wonderful man, excellent father. I've been able to witness some of the fruit of this brother's work, and I can testify to the fruit of that. So until next time, until the next father, until the next perspective, this is AJ saying peace.